Today, I'm going to talk about Huginn and Muninn, Odin's ravens. Ravens are a northern bird. They inhabit those northern forests, deciduous trees, and coniferous, and even some of the open areas of the north. So when Odin's ravens set to flight, it must be remembered what we're talking about. We're talking about ravens, a northern bird that they inhabit northern areas predominantly. So we're going to look at Grimness Mall, stanza 20, in the Abrahamic translation of the Poetic Edda. And we're going to look at the footnotes. And then we're going to break it down. Or Mithgarth, Huginn and Muninn, both each day set forth to fly. For Huginn I fear, lest he come not home, but for Muninn my care is more. And then we go down to the footnote for stanza 20. And he says, Mithgarth, the middle home, the earth. That is wrong. Mithgarth is the middle fence. As we've been pointing out in our writings, in our books, and in our videos, Mithgarth is the middle fence. It is the boreal forest, also called the Taiga biome, that encircles the entire globe. That is Mithgarth. But it goes even further than that, because that word, Mithgarth, does not even appear in that Old Norse poetic stanza. It's just not there. So there is being said that there is a great awakening taking place. A great awakening. Now, I've addressed this a little bit in yesterday's video of sanctioned versions. This great awakening is being said by predominantly the alt-right. Ancestral is saying it as well, but predominantly the alt-right is saying there's a great awakening taking place. But if what is being said is not true, then what are you waking up to? So I'm just going to read a little bit. There's Mark Twain here. Couple of just quick little paragraphs, because he says in a chapter called License of the Press, it has become a sarcastic proverb that a thing must be true if you saw it in a newspaper. That is the opinion intelligent people have of that lying vehicle in a nutshell. But the trouble is that the stupid people who constitute the grand overwhelming majority of this and all other nations do believe and are molded and convinced by what they get out of a newspaper. And there is where the harm lies. And then you turn the page and he addresses those people who are putting that information out. That awful power, the public opinion of a nation, is created in America by a horde of ignorant, self-complacent simpletons who have failed at ditching and shoemaking and fetched up in journalism on their way to the poorhouse. Now that was said by Mark Twain. It was echoed in Mein Kampf by Adolf Hitler when he said that with the press, there are your factions on the extreme one side that they don't believe anything the press says. And then there's the faction on the other side that they are more meticulous in discerning what the press says, that they put their own thought process to use. And then he says, this is all paraphrasing, of course, then he says there is a mass in the middle. And that is who is targeted. It's that mass. That's who the politicians target. That's who religions target. That's who religions target. And that is where you get your popularity from. That is where you get your money from. On one extreme, you have, they don't believe anything that comes out of the press's mouth. or the religion's mouth. On the other extreme, you have the discerning people. Those aren't the ones that get you elected. Those aren't the ones that you win popularity from. It's from the center ignorant masses that you get your popularity from. So, that said, we have these popularity contests. Now, I've said in a previous video, and I do thank people for buying our books. We've invested a lot of time into these, and we have ripped the Poetic Edda apart, and we've placed it where it belongs to be, in northern nature. But I have heard from people who claim to be folkish heathens in the alt-right that have told me it's impossible to tell what our ancient belief system actually was. And when I've said, no, it's not, then they have actually scoffed that, well, wait a minute. If it's impossible to tell, then you're a uni, because how can you eliminate anyone from the belief system that is impossible to tell what it actually was? You're right there in a nutshell. You're saying, while you're saying I'm folkish, you're actually uni. I have been asked to be an admin on different pages before we formed our own Northern Paganism pages on Facebook. I've been asked if I would be an admin on people's page. And I said, my response was, let's give it some time because I don't know what the page is all about. Well, as I am forthcoming with the information that I put out to ensure people know truth, then of what's actually being said, then I end up getting blocked from those pages because they're uni. They're trying to be popular, trying to get as many people to like them and what they put out. And a lot of that focuses on that completely absurd television show that the History Channel put out of the Vikings. As a matter of fact, I had one person was asking me, this was not too long ago, maybe a year ago, was asking me different things about the northern culture and things like this. And I was telling this woman about what it means to actually skull, when you skull someone, what the words mean, and this just the whole conversation. And she was very interested. So as the conversation went a little deeper, I actually have to give her credit because she said, I just want to dress up like a Viking and watch the Viking show on TV. And that was the end of the conversation. But at least she was honest. So what we end up with then is we're ending up with this ancestral alt-right culture that just wants to play dress up. That's what they want to do. They want to have their little cosplay Viking party. And well, okay, fine. That's your niche. Go for it. But that doesn't mean that it's folkish. A few months ago, I was on a page trying to just talk to people. And I've been using, as is written right here, our holy northern lands. And a female and the page admin said they were very interested until I used those words, until I said our holy northern lands. And I said, well, that's what our lore says. Our lore says right in there that we have holy northern lands. It is Abrahamic translators that have said our world tree is an ash tree. Our world tree, even look at the runes. The world tree is a yew tree. It's a yew tree. Well, where does the yew tree grow? Well, let's go back to Grimnismal, and we're going to look at stanza 4, because in stanza 4 comes right out and it says first words in there, which is land, which is holy. Look in the Abrahamic translation. The land is holy. Okay? Then it says, the Abrahamic translation says, that lies hard by the gods and the elves together. Actually, that's embellished greatly upon. Grim the Small stanza 4 says, land which is holy that I see located near gods and elves, and in Thrutheim, which is Thor's home, his mighty home, shall Thor be until the gods break a hole in the roof. That's what stanza 4 says. Land which is holy. Now, I pointed this out, and I pointed out Grim the Small stanza 5, the very next stanza. Udalir call they the place where Ul a hall for himself has set. Now that's the Abrahamic translation. It is, the Udales is called there which the howler, Uller, is heaved. So we have Udales, stanza 4 and stanza 5. The Udales were the howler, Ul, our bear. I've shown our bear as the howler in a previous short little video. And that is a holy land. And our yew tree is the tree of the north. And our ravens fly over that tree. Those Udales are Midgard, the middle fence. And then I was blocked. So you see, people don't want to know truth. You only know what you know. But if you don't want to know what the Old Norse actually says and what our folkish northern ancestors actually believe, then you have your good little religion to go by. Popularity and money. Okay? Which brings me to another concept of Valhalla before I get into Odin's ravens. Valhalla is the hall of rebirth, not the hall of when you are battle slain, then you go to Valhalla and you drink meat and eat pork, okay? I've shown on our Facebook, Northern Paganism Facebook page, how they admit to rewriting, or not, they admit to manipulating our lore and taking out concepts that don't agree with Christianity. And one of the concepts they removed is rebirth, reincarnation from Valhalla. And this was written in an 1800s book about the Kukulin saga. And it was written right into the introduction. They went through and they said how the monks would manipulate certain material, they'd add in certain material, and if it disagreed with any of the teachings of the religious cults of Abraham, they would just flat out eliminate it, which is what they did with reincarnation, and they wrote it right into that introduction in the 1800s book. So that means that the whole concept of Valhalla and eating pork and drinking mead is a one-time through concept of neo-paganism, not of what our folkish ancestors believed who were from the north. They believed you were going to get rebirth in your posterity, which is why we teach what we teach, because I want my posterity to know what it actually says, what our ancient gods and goddesses were actually telling us. Not some religion that is married to Christianity or Judaism or Islam. That said, Huginn and Muninn. Remember what the Abrahamic translation said in stanza 20. I'm going to read it to you. And I want you to look for the word Mithgarth, which they spell Mithgarth, because it's got the Thurzaz symbol, which was pronounced not the D of the D. So here, I'm going to read this to you, and I want you to look for that word in that stanza, because that is the Old Norse for Grim the Small, stanza 20. Okay? Or Mithgarth Huginn and Muninn both each day set forth to fly. For Huginn I fear, lest he come not home, but for Muninn my care is more. Mithgarth is not in there. Mithgarth is not in there at all. So, what is in there? What did they change? Now remember, they say Mithgarth means the middle home, Earth. Earth is the middle home. No. What they put in there is a compound word. Jörmungrund. Jörmungrund. And the stanza reads, Huginn and Muninn fly every day over Jörmungrund. Fear for Huginn that he comes not. But my concern for Muninn is more. Now, Huginn means things dealing with the mind. Things dealing with the mind of your present and forward thought. Your Huginn. That is your present and forward thought. That's what Huginn means. Muninn means memory. That is what the two names of Odin's ravens mean. Huginn and Muninn. Forward thought, Huginn. Backward thought, memory, Muninn. So, Jörmungrund. Jörmungrund. If you go to a translator and you look up Jörmungrund, it's going to say the earth. The earth. But the etymology is what reveals. And so if that says the earth, then you know where they get Mithgarth, and they wrote in Mithgarth because of their manipulation of what Mithgarth is. They say Mithgarth means earth, so therefore Jörmungrund, which they define to mean earth, means Mithgarth, and so they put it in there as meaning earth, but it doesn't say Mithgarth here, it says Jörmungrund. This is where etymology becomes important, because the word Jörmungrund is, first off, it's feminine, and that does say a lot, because remember, Fensolir, Freya's hall, okay, is the hall that contains all other halls. And so Fensolir, or heaven, is, because Fensolir, it's Freya's haven, and this haven is where we get the word heaven from. So it's heaven is feminine. Remember, I talked about symbolism, where the spirit of Odin that is gifted from Freya returns into heaven. There's this duality, masculine and feminine duality. So the heavens are feminine. Now, so is the word Jörmungrund. Okay, Jörmund denotes something huge or vast. Okay, that could apply to Earth, because Earth is huge, it's vast. But ravens are northern. So keep that in mind. Grund. If you translate it directly, it just means ground. However, that word grund comes from a Proto-Germanic word, which means abyss and bottom of the sea, and a deep place. It grundus. So this deep place, this abyss, this bottom of the sea, this is only seen in Germanic languages. There's no other cognates outside of the Germanic language. So when Odin's ravens, northern birds, take flight every day, they don't fly over all the earth, because ravens are not seen in points south. They only inhabit northern areas. Sky charts. Odin. Remember, he was called Grimmu. That's what we've been reading. We've been reading the Odin's Grimnismal, Grimmu. That's what he was called by the beginning gods, by the Ginner again. He was called Grimmu, and that means night by men. It's called night by men. So Odin's ravens are the night ravens. And if we look at the autumn sky, which kicks off Father's time, we have a cosmic fowl. There's one of Odin's ravens. Now, if you go back to the winter sky, there it is again. Odin's raven. Now, winter sky, you got to remember, Balder is bleeding up here, so the raven's going to be red. The bloody eagle's wings. That is Odin's ravens, is the nighttime fowl. And look at it. It's flying. Remember, heaven is feminine. Heaven is feminine, and it's flying over the abyss. It's flying over, what else was it called? It was called a deep place. It was called the bottom of the sea. At the start of Father's time, the cosmic fowl is overhead, only seen it from people in the north. Now it makes sense. Odin's ravens, a northern bird, have a cosmic fowl associated with Odin's nighttime sky that is only visible from the north. If you go to point south, that raven, that cosmic fowl called Cygnus, the constellation Cygnus, will not be seen. So these ravens that set flight are flying over a vast expanse of something very deep. And it's called Jörmungrund, not Earth, not Midgard. And it has 100% everything to do with the North and our folkish belief system, our culture and our ways. Now, here's the kick in the teeth. People who teach that the ravens fly over the earth instead of what they actually mean, that has direct ties to our culture, our ancestors, to white people. These people who are part of ancestral, part of the alt-right, and they have their prayer Wednesdays, Wotan Wednesdays. They have their prayer days on the 9th day of each month, where they apply to feelings. And they say, "Hail Odin, hail Odin," as we say that your ravens fly over the entire earth instead of just the holy northern lands, Midgard, our Udales, the boreal forest, and the vast expanse of that heavenly sea. Those people have murdered Odin's memory. Muninn is gone. They've murdered Muninn because they have abolished, they have destroyed the memory of Odin. And that is what he says. Is it not what he says? His fear is that Muninn will not return. Hail Odin, but kill Muninn. Tills nästa gång, good hälsa.